Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to Man City Unplugged, your very own Man City fan channel. The match day is getting nearer against Newcastle. I mean, the test against Newcastle will be very different to the ones we have had. See, against West Ham, we have had to face a counter-attacking team with fast-pacey wingers, right? You have Antonio, you have Bowen, Fornals, and Benrahma, and everyone else. And against Bournemouth, you have to face a classic sit at the back team, low block, narrow defensive structure, and all of that sort of a team. And now against Newcastle, Eddie Howe, I expect them to play. Go toe to toe with us. I think this will only happen in a few rare occasions where a team comes up against us and wants to play with the ball, wants to pass around. I hope that is the approach of Eddie Howe anyhow tomorrow, but we'll have to see. I don't see any top four team even. Maybe Arsenal would want to do that, but apart from Arsenal, I would not see a Chelsea, Spurs, United. Maybe a Liverpool could do that. Apart from Liverpool and Arsenal, I don't see many teams who would want to come and go on toe to toe with us. Pep Guardiola has just given a press conference. Some of the things he said in the press conference were interesting. Let's just have an overview on Pep's press conference and what he told about the match. Pep was asked about Cole Palmer and Calvin Phillips. Both Cole Palmer and Calvin Phillips were actually injured. I think in the first match, right, Cole Palmer came in that sort of a KDB sort of a role in the midfield sort of a role, and then after that he was Pep told that he was injured and he was absent from the Bournemouth game. So Pep has told that Palmer is back, but uh, and Calvin Phillips has some niggles, but apart from that, everyone is okay. So I actually think we have. I know obviously that Aymeric Laporte is a long-term injury, so he's out. But I do think most of our team is fit, according to what Pep has said. Do we have anyone else left to come back? No one. I think our team is completely fit now, apart from Laporte. John Stones, maybe about John Stones, he said a little bit of niggles. But again, see, this is interesting. People often speak about what is the best way to stop City. How do you come up against City? Is it a counter-attacking approach which Jose Mourinho used against Pep Guardiola's great Barcelona team when he was at Inter Milan? Do you use that approach against a Pep team, or what do you do? Do you sit back in a low block and maybe hope that you take a nil-nil draw or hope to get something on a break? Do you leave your wingers high like a Mourinho did? What do you do against City? For me, my answer always has been that the best way to play against, especially this City team, is go toe to toe with us. Brighton have showed that. Try to press us high. Try to press in the sense. Few people what they think is some two people pressing or three people pressing is called a press. No, proper press. Move your entire team together for the press. That's how you play against City. Come up toe to toe with us. So I think maybe Newcastle could do that, and for me, I think one of the best ways, when you come up against a pressing team, when you come up against a team who counter press, is to have a ball playing defender. There's no way around it. I know Diaz and Ake have done well, but I do think we might see John Stones against Newcastle, especially because of how Eddie Howe plays and all of those things. Pep was then asked about Sergio Gomez availability, and Pep said yes, is ready and is in the squad for Newcastle. But do we expect Sergio Gomez to start? I don't know, but I certainly expect John Stones to start here because of just the ability to break the counter press. If Newcastle set up in a way, if Pep thinks Newcastle will set up in a way that they will press. I actually haven't seen Newcastle play recently. It's just about how they played last season, and thinking about Eddie Howe's style as a manager and stuff, I actually think that they would like to press. JS is here. JS says, I think we should not put all our hopes on one player as if he doesn't join us. We might even lose the chance to buy Paqueta as happened this year with Real, with Haaland and Mbappe. That's a good point, JS. That's a good point, and we'll discuss about this Bellingham situation and transfer situation later on in the show. JSK is here, JSK. He says, I think we should sort out with Silva about his future. That's what JSK. The strange thing is, after the Barcelona rumors have all but ended, this PSG rumors have come from somewhere else. I do not know how PSG can now. Okay, PSG. I don't know how PSG would have the audacity to even come up to City and ask for Bernardo Silva, because PSG would be an absolute nightmare move for Bernardo Silva. See, you look at the players who have gone there. Gini Wijnaldum was the heartbeat of the Liverpool team, Champions League winner. Went there and he turned out into shit actually. So it's just absolute farce. These rumors. I just put it there in the show just because two three outlets were reporting yesterday, especially the France outlet. So I just thought, could there be something in it? But then with the situation around PSG and stuff, I mean, I would not be surprised if that Barcelona idiots would have paid off some France outlets to print some news just to put more pressure on City. That's what the Barcelona board would have actually done. I would not be surprised if that was actually the case. JSK says, don't worry about PSG. They're an even smaller club. Exactly, PSG. Exactly, JSK. The only difference between Barcelona and PSG is PSG have money, but still they're going towards financial ruin. And Barcelona don't have money, and they're also going towards financial ruin. So two clubs who are on the different ends of the financial spectrum, but they're going towards the same ending. No, the way Mbappe, I mean, when you give that much of a power to Mbappe, that's when you have sealed the ruin of your club. There's no coach in the world that would want to go there. And look at the ego of Mbappe. They're taking that penalty away. So I'm so very happy that, if you remember, we were linked to Mbappe I think 3 4 years ago, and Pep then also said that 3 years ago that we have funds if a special player comes up. I'm very glad that we didn't go for Mbappe back then. JSK says Julian Draxler biggest ego ruined after joining PSG. He was supposed to be the next Muller. Everyone, JSK, even Hakimi was supposed to be this next great fullback, right? Hakimi almost had everything. Had pace, had great control on the ball, had, I mean, good defensive noise, cut in easily, had a great shot on himself. Hakimi was said to be the biggest thing, right? He was absolutely destroyed, and they say Hakimi and Mbappe have some of the biggest egos in PSG. And also, you remember Nuno Mendes? Nuno Mendes was heavily linked to us, I think, 2 seasons ago. Reports are that we wanted to pay around 30 million, and they were Sporting wanted 40 million pounds, and City backed out of the deal. I mean, everything that is happening in the transfer window somehow seems like destiny is guiding us in the right way. The players we're missing on, and Nuno Mendes, by the way, has a terrible injury record. So I'm glad that the transfer window sometimes we miss players. It's actually good. At that time, Cucurella also. I feel that now I'm feeling that maybe Sergio Gomez might actually not be a bad option. Might actually turn out to be a better option than Cucurella. And also, did you see Sergio Gomez with his with the City shirt from his childhood days? He's a childhood City fan, and in his first interview, he was speaking about how playing for City is one of his greatest dreams coming true and something. So, I mean, just look at it. With Cucurella, it was sometimes like you are getting another La Masia graduate, and it was almost that with Cucurella, you were giving the switch to Barcelona. It was almost like Barcelona had the choice of flickering it on like an Eric Garcia and taking Cucurella back to Barca. But with Sergio Gomez, another player who will not leave the club at all unless we want to sell him and things like that. So suddenly you have this core group of players being developed who are staunch club fans, who are staunch City fans, who really want to be here, who appreciate what is there here, who are in love with the club. You have a Phil Foden who's like that now. You have Kevin De Bruyne now. I think Calvin Phillips falls into that category. You have Ruben Diaz who's like that. You have Ederson who's like that. Kyle Walker's like that. So Mahrez is like that. Gundo is like that. So suddenly I can on the top of my head only name 7 8 players who are absolute fans of the club. And in this kind of a social media era and all, where players are just, seeing clubs as if they are nothing, player power is overruling everyone else. I think we are developing into something special in terms of the structure and in terms of the way players are adoring us. JSK's Barca also have ruined many players too, especially after Enrique left. Griezmann, Coutinho, De Jong, Dembele. Dembele, I think JSK Dembele, I think will be found in the graveyards of wasted football talent. You'll find a Hatim Ben Arfa over there. You'll find I think definitely Osman Dembele, Pogba you'll find there. Though people think he won the World Cups with France, but you'll find Pogba over there, man. Osman Dembele, what a talent he was, right? Two-footed player, blessed with extreme pace, blessed with height, could take long steps. Osman Dembele, in a way, when he broke out, was more talented than Haaland, if you see. Talent in the sense he had the God gifted physical attributes of being two legged and being tall and having so much ball control. How many players do you see having all those attributes and he ruined the career and he ruined his career? See, that is the difference between a Ronaldo, a Messi, a Haaland, and all these players who were not able to make their talent count. Talent, if you ask me, opens the first door, but after that it's all about your passion to work hard, your keeping your ego down, and all of those attributes come to the fore. I think that will be the difference. Why Haaland will be a world beater and Mbappe might actually be found in the graveyards of that wasted talent. You see, what did Mbappe do? I mean, there was a joke going around that Mbappe has scored what 100 goals or 120 goals in the last 3 4 seasons combined in the League One, and Messi has scored around about 100 goals only in 2 seasons in that prime period of 2010 to 2012. I think this will be the biggest difference between a Haaland and an Mbappe going forward. JSK says, don't forget Haaland too. Even in his first birthday, he was in the city kit. Lol. Yes, Haaland. I mean, actually, it didn't just strike my mind, but Haaland. We take them for granted. Haaland, even Alvarez, also seeing his the way he behaves and the amount of love he gives to the club. So I think we are fortunate to. I would not say fortunate, but I think we have created a system around the club wherein the players feel that once they come in, they feel loved and they don't want to go back. And if they were not City fans earlier, they become City fans once the player arrives here. David Silva was a big example. David Silva, Barcelona were calling on David Silva, and yet he chose City. That is the one thing that is enough for me. Why is a City legend? Pep further stressed on Sergio Gomez that he's settling into the team, he's settling into the system, his mood is exceptional, and is starting to know us. I mean, people think that Sergio Gomez might not start many games, but I think Sergio Gomez starts ahead of Josh Wilson as brand, because Sergio Gomez has the attributes to fit the system, but whereas Josh Wilson as brand, he has good fullback attributes, but he doesn't have the attributes that are necessary for the Pep Guardiola system right now. So for me, Sergio Gomez is straight away far ahead of Josh Wilson as brand. Pep again was asked questions about Bernardo Silva. Pep said that he's our player. He knows our wishes, me as a manager, and even his mates. What is going to happen, I don't know. So Pep maybe wants to throw in a bit of surprise, but at this moment we actually know that Bernardo Silva is staying. Then Pep was asked about Liverpool and they dropped 4 points. I mean, I think Pep is one of the best sources to go to. To watch, especially right now if you are a Liverpool fan, because City have also dropped. What we were also in a similar kind of a stage last season, right? We lost our first 2 games actually of the three, and we were actually in a bad state than what Liverpool are now after first 2 games. So Pep said it's very early days. I'm sorry, but after 2 fixtures, we cannot make any plans about the future. We play Newcastle on Sunday. Respect to all the other teams, we will try to improve our game and win the games. He further told Liverpool is not my business. This is Manchester City. So I think those were actually the important touching points from Pep Guardiola's press conference. Over and all, he was looking very happy. He was looking very joyful actually while doing the press conference. It somehow feels that Pep is slowly bringing in a new defensive structure, new system that we discussed last time on the show, and all the players are happily buying into it. All the players are happily adapting to it, and Pep is not having any problem with anyone not buying into it. So now let us go into the main talking point on the show, which is Lucas Paqueta or Jude Bellingham. Actually, this one thing that is still pinching me about Jude Bellingham. There is one thing I'm actually not as satisfied about Jude Bellingham. See, if we did not have a backup for Rodri, if we didn't buy Calvin Phillips as a replacement for Fernandinho, then actually Jude Bellingham was. I think it was a certainty that we went for Jude Bellingham. We get him or not, it's a different thing. But right now there are two factors. The first factor is, would City actually love to be involved in a bidding war? I do not know. In the past, we have seen that the club doesn't like bidding wars because for Bellingham, you'll have competition from Liverpool. PSG might come in. Okay, we have some points in favor. They have some points in favor. Liverpool, that's a different thing. But we wouldn't like to get into bidding wars. But the second most important thing is the footballing reason here is, Pep loves to have versatile players. If you count all of the players in the City team who are not versatile, who cannot play different positions, maybe you could name Rodri, who can probably play only in that CDM position, and maybe a Ruben Diaz who could play in that just in that centre back position. Otherwise, Stones can play right back, centre back, Ake centre back, left back, Walker centre back, right back, Cancelo can play in all the systems except in goalkeeper. Ederson can play goalkeeper, centre back. I mean, just kidding. So you have people who can play in all of the you mostly you see versatile players out there. So is Jude Bellingham a versatile player for me? Because Bernardo Silva, you look at the players Pep has gone in that position, in that box to box role. Bernardo Silva can play on the wing, and Bernardo Silva can play centre mid. Grealish can play on the wing, Grealish can play centre mid, Grealish can play cam. So, are you getting so much of versatility with a Jude Bellingham? The answer has to be no. Actually, the best position, the place where Jude Bellingham can play is maybe that Bernardo role, and that's it. Actually, he can't play more roles. Maybe he can adapt to the Pep system. He will know the positional sense and stuff, but he actually is at least now he's a one position player, so that might actually be a hindrance in us going for Bellingham. JSK says, well, I don't think Liverpool can beat us if we do the PSG thing for Bellingham. If we offer 150 million, then you can see we won the race for Bellingham. But JSK, we would win the race for Bellingham, but we might actually be behind in the race to sustainability. Is it worth spending 150 million pounds on a player, and sort of bringing the financial structure down? PSG, for example, are struggling to manage the finances right now. So I think what is important is the priorities. Would bringing Jude Bellingham make us, how much difference would it make to us? It is not that bringing Jude Bellingham will make us from a top 4 team to the Premier League winning team, right? We are already getting close to 100 points, and is it worth putting that 150 million pounds on Jude Bellingham? I think it's not just the money, but it's more about the values on how we operate in the transfer market that is at stake when you want to spend anything above $100 million. Yeah, we did it for Jack Grealish, I understand, but I don't think we'll have a above 100 million pound signing anytime soon. See, we did it for Jack Grealish because that season Pep was certain Bernardo Silva would leave. There actually strong rumors. Bernardo Silva, if you remember, didn't play the season before as much, was out of form, wanted to leave the club, and there were a lot of things. So Pep was sure that Bernardo would leave, and that's why he got Grealish back then. So I think we spent 100 million pounds on Grealish, but that was out of necessity. But now, does necessity dictate that you pay 150 for Jude Bellingham? I don't actually think. I don't actually think. And coming to Lucas Paqueta, his attributes are actually very interesting. JSK says, let's go for Jamal Musiala. Bayern will sell him for nearly 100 million. Again, Jamal Musiala, uh, uh, James McAtee, can't we adjust James McAtee to play that Jamal Musiala role? Again, see, I think this will surely be an argument whenever from now on Pep buys players in the transfer window. Do we have a player of such abilities in our academy? Is he ready? The answer to both those questions will dictate how much we spend on a player. And also looking at how much we were prepared to spend for Cucurella, right? 40 mil, they were asking 45 to 50. We did not want to go anywhere around more than 35 to 40. I think more than 35 also we did not want to go. So I don't think we spend 100 million pounds on someone looking at how we approach the Cucurella situation. And coming to Lucas Paqueta, actually, Lucas Paqueta is interesting because I think he fits in perfectly with that Bernardo Silva mold. I mean, more than a Bernardo Silva mold, he fits in perfectly uh, as a player, someone who's in the mold of a Christopher Nkunku. He could actually be a long-term replacement of Kevin De Bruyne. And just imagine getting a long-term replacement of Kevin De Bruyne for 60 million pounds. I think that's a cheap deal. That's a deal that absolutely you could take without blinking an eyelid actually in this transfer market. See what we got De Bruyne for 45 million pounds, inflation adjusted. It's the same price almost you're playing for getting the replacement of De Bruyne now, Lucas Paqueta. And Paqueta can play as a CM, can play as a cam, can play as a winger. They say that his through balls are excellent, his passing is excellent, is strong in the air as well, something which is surprising, which you don't see in creative players. He actually fits the profile of the versatility that Pep Guardiola actually demands from his players. And also, he's just 24. He's Brazilian. I mean, a lot of things. Has an excellent defensive work rate. Can play around the press well, and more importantly, we will have a free run on him. They will be, maybe they're telling Arsenal is competing for him, but where are Arsenal? Once we are in the race, once Pep is in the race, Arsenal will be in the mud. so there'll be no competition, there'll be no bidding war for him. I guess we can get him for 50 to 55 million pounds. So that, I think that would be the way to plan our future, because KDB is almost 31 right now, right? We have to start looking for the successor of KDB. Vinay says Paqueta is interesting in Silva's role. Nkunku isn't City type player, but Vinay, they actually say that Nkunku can play in that Kevin De Bruyne sort of a role, where I know he's played in that striker role for Leipzig and stuff, but he played again in that role against us in the Champions League as well, right? But they say that Cam is his main position. The runs he makes, the dribbles, his vision. It's actually, they say it's good, but they say Lucas Paqueta is maybe a bit more above Nkunku. And you know, the release clause of Nkunku right now is 100 million pounds. And you know, and the news is that United might be tempted to pay the release clause of Nkunku as well. So, I mean, Lucas Paqueta is definitely interesting, and he'll be a real. See, if Nkunku's price tag is 100 million pounds, it's just time that Paqueta's price tag also will jump up to that price range. So it'll be interesting to see how we approach that transfer. Vinay says we won't get Paqueta this season, I guess, and next year there'll be many teams. Then Vinay, next year I think the focus will be on Jude Bellingham. The focus should be on Jude Bellingham for most teams. So I think I'm expecting us to have a free run on Lucas Paqueta. Lucas Paqueta was in the shortlist of Arsenal actually. Arsenal, they said, were in for him. Spurs also maybe were in the race. That's what they say. But when this Bernardo rumors intensified, the sources said, actually Fabrizio Romano said that City have now jumped and to the front of the queue for Lucas Paqueta. So definitely Lucas Paqueta was on the top of Pep Guardiola's mind, because Pep knew if he lost Bernardo and couldn't replace him, the entire season would go down. So if Pep Guardiola was ready to count on a player in, I mean, assuming a crisis situation, assuming maybe Bernardo leaves, then I think the player must be special. There must be something Pep Guardiola has seen in a player to think that If Bernardo leaves, he can come and start right away. He can come and adjust to my system right away. I think this one thing shows that Lucas Paqueta has attributes which Pep thinks is ready-made for the team. So that was actually interesting. Vinay says, I don't think there's a player close to KDB type. We don't need to worry for 2 years at least. But as yeah, I hope so. But I think it would be good that we can, if we can get a player in early, so that a young player in early, so that he can develop in KDB's footsteps. He could transition into KDB's footsteps, and by the time KDB retires, KDB leaves the club in 2 3 years, he could be ready to start in the first team. I mean, if you think like that, then maybe Lucas Paqueta is not the right option. See, it depends on what Pep Guardiola thinks. Does Pep Guardiola think KDB still has 2 3 years to give me at a very very high level? Then I can bring in a 19-year-old, or I can bring in a 20-year-old and develop him for 1 2 years, just like a Phil Foden developed under David Silva, just like a Cole Palmer was developing under Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan, and then transition him in, just like Gundogan, Palmer, Mahrez, Palmer, the Luka MBT, Ruben Diaz, the sort of system we have always been following. So it depends on how Pep assesses about the high levels that De Bruyne is in for the next 2 3 years. How long can he perform at that level? JSK says Jamal Musiala can be a KDB replacement too, but JSK, those sort of a players, I mean, would they leave Bayern Munich? If I'm not wrong, is he from Bayern Munich's youth academy? If so, then I think it will be difficult to get him out of the club. Even if we get him out of the club, they'll demand 100 120 million pounds, and it will be a huge sum. And again, would it be worth to risk the financial stability of the club, the financial structure of the club? Because the aim this decade is to bring players from our academy through to the first team as much as possible, and the second thing is to become self-sustainable as a club. And this transfer window, I was just seeing some stats. I think we are almost at equal with Brighton in terms of positive net spends. We have almost 60 70 million pounds net spend, round about that figure, positive net spend. Only us, Brighton, and I think one more club are in the positive net spend. So you can see how coolly we are transitioning into the next era, and spending that much of money for a player, anything above 80 million 90 million for a player, unless he's a generational talent, unless who you can say that he will get a Ballon d'Or for sure, and you have a necessity there, I don't think we'll actually do that. Vinay says, I'm stunned with Casemiro to Man United. Man is a top player at United, and he's a top player, and United doesn't deserve him. And how he suddenly fits in Eric Ten Hag's system. Vinay, I think there are two things to this. I was just chatting to one of my friends as well, who was a United fan a while ago, about Casemiro transfer. He was very disappointed, but then there are two things to this. The first thing is, I think what Eric Ten Hag wanted to do is he wants to stem, that negativity, which means he doesn't want to concede goals. And how do you not concede goals while still playing that system? Maybe put a Casemiro in and maybe make that defense tight. But then I was thinking about the past. How did Klopp manage this? How did Pep manage this when they were actually in these positions? 2016, beaten in the rain against Leicester 4-0 or 5-1. Otamendi on the mat. Klopp, I think, was 4-0 counter attack. I think Klopp in 2015 against Spurs was a prime example of it. It was the same. United lost 4-0 to Brentford. Klopp then lost 4-0 to Spurs, something like that. But then they didn't go for a defensive option. They went for an offensive option back then. They still played their style in the same way. They were not afraid of the negativity that was coming their way. But with Ten Hag, this is actually my fear for Ten Hag, actually, that he will translate into a defensive minded system, and by bringing a Casemiro, Fred, Bruno Fernandes, something, he'll put in a defensive system, and that might warrant him to tweak his methodology actually. And Pep always says this, Klopp always says this, that a coach who compromises on his fundamental coaching principles, in order to accommodate what the fans say, what the media say, in order to get away from negativity, he can't go to the top level. See, I think in the last show we were discussing, is Ten Hag actually good for City? So this is the thing. If can Ten Hag find solutions in this situation? Because everyone was in this situation. Klopp, Pep, even Arteta, Conte was there. Though it was a bit different with Conte in 2016. So how will Ten Hag respond? And for me, this first step from him at least shows that he has responded to this situation in a very defensive kind of manner. It's almost that you're telling it's a small sign of a white flag there with buying Casemiro. I don't think, and also looking at, when we played against Real Madrid in the Champions League first leg, second leg, Casemiro is not suited to positional play at all. We Real Madrid were struggling in both the games when Casemiro was on the pitch. It was only after Camavinga came there into the midfield that they actually started to get on and have some firepower there. So I don't know. One of the things people are saying that Casemiro thinks that this is the best time in his career to secure and ensure his life, so that he can and and to do that he needs to earn a truckload of money. And where is the best place to earn a truckload of money? Go to United with an insane amount of salary. See, whatever be the nature of the player, the reasons for why he's coming to United is actually not good. It's obviously for money. If you gave Casemiro salary of close to what a Bernardo is earning now, for example, would Casemiro come to United? Rumors are has been offered a wage almost equal to what Kevin De Bruyne is earning at City. That is almost insane. So the reasons are not correct. See, this is why clubs are successful. Clubs are not successful just because of spending money in the transfer window or having top class managers. That is not what makes a club successful. It's about your values on why the players want to come to you. Is it for the right reasons, wrong reasons? And all of the players, any hardcore United fan will have to accept this. They will accept this, that in all of the players in the last 5 6 years have come here for money, put the club down in the mud. They've played for their own personal selfish causes, and they've left the club falling down in the mud, and they've gone. The only people I feel for is the fans over there. That's it. The players even don't feel for the fans. That's the disappointing thing about United. Vinay says, Football Kick says, why do we need Musiala? We have Foden. That's actually an interesting thing. Football Quicks, you can see on the screen as well. That was one of my other discussion points about Foden. I was reading on another social media forum that is Foden actually nailed on to be a forward in at City, or will he return to the midfield? I mean, this is not at all an easy question to answer, because next season Pep will again have to think about and make a choice. Is Foden ready to play in the midfield? I think the answer will actually be no, because Pep thinks that he still hasn't got the maturity to control the tempo of the games. So then what will we do next season? Next season we'll buy another midfielder there. Could be a Lucas Paqueta, that's what we want, or maybe a Jude Bellingham, who will again be in that sort of 23, 24 age, right? So when will Foden get the chance to actually play there? Or you're telling, can Foden replace KDB? I actually don't see Foden replacing KDB. Actually, he's not that kind of a player. Watching KDB play, you almost visualize him as a Rolls Royce running through the defenders. And with Foden, it's almost like you have a sort of Foden is for me. Foden is a hybrid between a KDB and a David Silva. Foden loves to play those short passes, control the game, but also Foden likes to go past players. He's not an exact KDB or not an exact David Silva. I think Foden is actually not nailed on for that KDB role, because to play in that KDB role you need to be a bit more ambitious. To play in that KDB role you need to be a bit more, you need to have a bit more of that panache. But with Foden you see that he has a bit of a sense of security around him. Well, David Silva was like that, but looking at the system we are playing in, I think Foden would suit the CM role actually than a De Bruyne replacement role. Vinay says Musiala is beyond prospect and he won't join us. Exactly, Vinay. And also, giving players crazy money and tempting them to join us has not worked out well. We have seen it in the red city of Manchester, right? In the red part of Manchester, that they have been ruined just because of that one reason, so I'm not at all in favor of paying people extra wages. See, Grealish was different. He wanted to come to the club. Grealish's salary is also not as much, right? Okay, the clubs demanded a high transfer fee. That is fine. See, if the player has the intention, is technically gifted, he is very good, then it's actually fine. Even if you want to pay £100 million for him, but the mind of Jamal Musiala, Bayan Academy graduate, so it's actually different to get him out from there. Football fixes. If you want someone, why not go for Florian Wirtz? I've actually heard a bit about him, football tricks, but I actually think Lucas Paqueta is much more further in his sense of development than a Florian Wirtz. JSK says everything has a price. If you offer 100 to 120 million, Bayern will sell him without a second. That's only partially true, JSK, that everything has a price, because what about the attitude of the player? What about if the player actually wants to be there, or is the player being sold because we are giving him 100 120 million pounds, where we are giving the club so much of a money. So I think at the starting everything has a price, and at the starting the player might play well, but as days go on, we've seen with Pogba, for example, he came to United just for money. So his mind was always at Juventus. So it's actually that the same thing will happen if you actually pay over the odds for players. So I mean, everything has a price, but the attitude of a player, but his interest in being there, you can't measure it up with a price. Actually, that that is why football is such a unique game. You can pay hundreds of millions. Just look at the cost of PSG's front four combined, and look at the trophies they have won. That is the reason everyone had a prize and they bought him, but couldn't gel together. Everyone came there for their own agenda. So I actually think, does Jamal Musiala wants to come to City, for example? That is the question which our transfer directors will ask even before pursuing the transfer, actually, or is he coming just for the money? Vinay says, word sounds near to KDB type. I actually haven't seen much from Florian words, but I've actually heard from a few people that, from a few journalists that I've read that sources at City believe that Lucas Paqueta is much more ahead in his in his development curve than a Florian words. Especially the defensive side and ability to escape the press. That's what, they. People at City are actually very fascinated by when compared to Lucas, when thinking about Lucas Paqueta, and also Brazilian flair. And I mean, Paqueta seems actually very interesting for me. Football critics, for me, my first choice will always be Nkunku. He's the next KDB, the way he plays. Football critics, yeah, and Nkunku, and that's what we've been discussing. They say that the player who is absolutely very close, similar in playing style, similar in stature, similar to the runs he makes, defensively a bit more better than Nkunku is Lucas Paqueta, and Nkunku has a £100 million release clause, whereas Lucas Paqueta just has £60 million. I think they're willing to sell him for. So exactly the same attributes. So I would actually go for Lucas Paqueta, just for the reason that Nkunku is a bit more harder to get by. Vinay says Nkunku isn't KDB replacement. Paqueta is close to KDB replacement. Actually, Vinay, they say that Nkunku can play that KDB role. Like, we haven't seen him play that role much, right? He plays for striker for Leipzig, but they say that he drops into the midfield, his passes from the midfield and all. He's again an all-action midfielder. So they say that Nkunku as well has a similar playing style to Paqueta, but see, similarity, if you find someone who's exactly similar to KDB, you cannot get anyone, because KDB is in himself one of, I mean, if you look back 5 years from now, after KDB retires, for example, you will count KDB as one of the legends of midfield, actually. Iniesta, Xavi, you'll put them in Luka Modric, KDB. You'll put KDB amongst one of the best midfielders. Certainly for me, the best midfielder. That has graced the Premier League. So alongside David Silva. So that comparison will be very close. So I don't think you can compare him with anyone. He's a generational talent, KDB. But how can you get someone who's close to that, who has the attributes of KDB? But then another question actually regarding this, when KDB goes, what sort of a system that does Pep want to build at City? So, for example, when David Silva was there, Pep had to accommodate both David Silva and KDB, right? So he played two attacking midfielders, right? When David Silva left, the first thought on all our minds was who will be the next replacement of David Silva? Who will play in that attacking midfield role? Pep removed that role. So it actually remains to be seen what is the kind of tactical system that Pep wants to create. Does he want to continue playing the same system which KDB thrives in, or does he want to create an other system? Does he want to innovate? For Pep, actually, it's the system first, and then he searches for the jigsaws. Then he searches for the players who can complete the system. Actually, it's the other way around for many coaches, and that's the difference between Pep and the other coaches. So I think it depends on the vision that Pep has in terms of how he wants to set City up. Vinay says KDB's prime will last at least 2 years. Seeing Modric seems like that, and also being at City, having the best facilities, and now with their arrival, and now with having so many players options around him, as the age goes on, I think game time Pep also might manage KDB, and his game time Pep will also choose games for KDB. I think the longevity of KDB will go for at least 3 years, I think, if not more than that. So you can expect prime KDB for 2 years, and then for the next 1-2 years, KDB could just be there. And rumors are that KDB is also interested in taking his coaching badges and stuff. So KDB might actually remain in City like Coutinho did for next 4-5 years. So it's interesting. JSK says just hope KDB wins the UCL before leaving. It'll actually be one of the greatest, I mean, one of the saddest moments if KDB would leave without winning an UCL. See, his KDB's last season's performance against Real Madrid, right? It deserved a UCL. It deserved at least a place in the final, right? See, destiny. KDB against Chelsea. See, a lot of my friends who are Chelsea fans say that if KDB wasn't injured in that final in Porto, Rudiger made that harsh challenge on him, City would have won that game. They were sure that Aguero coming on, KDB would somehow provide an assist, and it was just a matter of time that the game would be level. So look at destiny sometimes. KDB gave everything to reach that final in Porto, injured against Real Madrid was exceptional, in the first leg especially. We should have blown them apart 7-0, 8-0, 9-0. We should have wiped the faces of those bloody Real Madrid players with the way KDB performed in that match. So I think, but this season I think it's KDB. I think next 2 years KDB stands a huge chance of at least getting closer to the UCL and winning it, because the ruthlessness in Haaland, the ruthlessness in Alvarez. Foden will need to develop and will improve his finishing. KDB himself is shooting, so I think it's exciting times. I think even Pep has realized this, that okay, Jesus is there, Sterling is there, but do I want to leave my prime KDB to these people who are not sure of finishing, people who are shit scared of going one-on-one against keeper? So Pep has thought about it, and Pep has told Tixiki, I want Haaland, I want Alvarez here. Enough I've had with these clowns who don't know how to finish. So I think this season and next season we stand a heavy chance. I think this season and next season I would be disappointed if we don't get close to close to that quadruple run which Liverpool had last season. So because of the squad we have, because of the squad depth we have, because of KDB in his prime now, Haaland adjusting so well to the system, Rodri in his absolute prime, Bernardo for this one season will give everything. Bernardo is so professional. Diaz looking absolutely good. Walker looking that I'll have one final hooray before retiring. So it's just that this season somehow it feels that it might be special. This season, next season, there might be two seasons which could be extra special. It could be so memorable. I don't know why, but I have that sort of a gut feeling. Football Club says KDB goes, Bernardo might take his place only if he stays. Uh, that actually depends, but do I think Bernardo Silva? I actually think Bernardo Silva could take the KDB place actually, because when Bernardo was playing higher last season, when KDB was not there, actually think Bernardo did well. If you see Bernardo's stats, they were almost similar to Salah's till that period of December, until KDB came back. So actually, Bernardo is not a good shot. Bernardo could be a very good shout out for this role, Rodri, Foden, Bernardo. I know this will be a very, very unpopular opinion, but I actually think that Rodri, Gundogan, Bernardo midfield also was actually very, very good, And you could also see it with Real Madrid second leg. KDB had an off game and Pep bought in Bernard Gundogan, I think, and suddenly the shape changed and we scored a goal. So even that midfield is good actually. Rodri, Ford, and Bernardo. Bernardo is a good shout for placing KDB. But I'll have to say that the gameplay will be different. I'll have to say the both of them are different sort of a players, KDB and Bernardo. So Football Crick says, if I have to be honest, I always wanted Nunes over Haaland because he plays at wing. JSK says, in that match against Chelsea, we should have injured Kante after they have injured KDB. But JSK, right? The kind of team we are, we, we never wish malice on any player, and sometimes people say that it's just because of this very, very good attitude that you guys are not winning the UCL and stuff. but but the injury was nasty, I couldn't believe that Rudiger didn't get a red card. He just escaped. I couldn't believe. They say it was accidental, but come on, it wasn't accidental. Sergio Ramos doing that foul on Salah wasn't accidental. I think in that 2017 or 2018 Champions League final. So these were not accidental. Come on, I was shit pissed off that we didn't get a red card for that. Vinay says, what will happen in Liverpool FC versus United? Liverpool Football Club looks stuck by injuries and Nunes red now. Vinay, if Ole Solskjaer was the manager of United right now, I would actually say that United would win the match hands down, because sit back, hit on the counter, right? But with Eric Ten Hag, you just don't know. The man might just do something like he did against Brentford, and if you do that, you'll be 6-0 down against Liverpool. But somehow, I have a small feeling that United are actually going to win this match. And for us, I think the best result would be United to win this match, or United in the worst case to get a draw in this match, because we saw what Liverpool did last season with that second half run. So every point that Liverpool drop is something we can actually celebrate. Every point Liverpool drop and every point we win is one step closer to the title for us. So I think United are gonna at least draw this match for me. I think that maybe Casemiro will start and United will park the bus or play a defensive block and then hit Liverpool on the counter actually. So that's what I think is gonna happen. Football Tricks says, if I have to be honest, I always wanted Nunes over Haaland because he plays at wings. Football Tricks, Nunes was a striker we scouted back 2 years back as well when he was playing out there in Portugal. We scouted 2-3 years back, and there were reports that Nunes is the perfect sort of a Pep Guardiola striker. When we even bought Gabby Jesus as well, right? David Nunes was on that list actually of the strikers we were scouting. When we were looking for a Sergio Aguero replacement, David Nunes was on that list, and no one was going for David Nunes back then. See, David Nunes this season came to the fore because of what he did against Liverpool in that UCL quarter-final match and things like that. But we were scouting David Nunes for the last 3-4 years. for the last 5 years. I don't know what are the reasons, but we didn't go for him. There must be some reasons why we didn't go for him. See, the thing is, we just don't go based on the technical ability of the player and all. We also go based on the background of the player, based on the attitude of the player, based on how he responds in certain situations. I do think Pep somehow thought Nunes might not have been the best fit actually. JSK says, I will take Haaland over Nunes any day, even when he's injured. But JSK, the finishing of Haaland is way above Nunes actually. See, community shield and everything is fine, but if you observe it clearly, I can pull him for example. David Nunes missed chances that Haaland would actually swallow up in his in the worst of his nightmares. No, against Crystal Palace as well, Nunes actually had chances. And another interesting thing about this Nunes stuff is Nunes playing is. I think the Liverpool system is. I was actually thinking about this. I think especially after the Crystal Palace game, I think the Liverpool system is actually a bit paralyzed due to Darwin Nunes being there, because the way Luis Diaz cut in after Nunes got the red card, if you see, that space would not have been available if Darwin Nunes was there. So literally, Darwin Nunes is kind of paralyzing the system. So Liverpool will have to adjust to it. People thought Haaland will be the problem, and City, City, Haaland, how will both of them adjust to each other? But you see the clear instructions from Pep to Haaland that you stay up front, you stay, do not gravitate from the striker position towards the midfield. Okay, for defensive work you can come and join the team, but do not in attacking shape, in attacking positions, you stay up front. The reason is again the space. And I think Liverpool are actually struggling with that element. Maybe Darwin Nunes doesn't have that positional discipline to stay at a particular position. Maybe he doesn't have that positional awareness as much as Pep Guardiola likes. That could actually be the reason why City didn't sign him after all. But this was a vital observation for me from that Liverpool match. He's paralyzing the impact of both Diaz and Salah, especially Diaz, because Diaz, it seemed as if Diaz became a free spirit after Darwin Nunes got a red. JSK says at least Haaland will injure all the centre backs now. Vinay says, well, Haaland presence is enough to cause fear, which isn't with Nunes. Since his arrival, I'm only thinking of Haaland goals rather than any chances of losing. I mean, with Haaland, literally, now centre backs are also having that dilemma that, do I stick to Haaland? What do I do? And Pep is, surprisingly, I mean, very shrewdly, astutely, Pep is shadowing Haaland with another striker, 4-4-1-1 almost. And suddenly centre backs are, do I go to Haaland? Do I go to a Gundogan making the run? Or do I go to Kevin De Bruyne? Or do I go and block off the long shot from Rodri? Or do I stop Riyad Mahrez from cutting in and curling one inside? Or do we stop Phil Foden from cutting in? I mean, the thoughts in the defender's head are just a nightmare. Defenders will just go crazy, I think, when analyzing. I think managers will go crazy when they're analyzing a tactical system to stop Haaland. Because it's not about stopping Haaland. Stopping Haaland means it's kick-starting Kevin De Bruyne. Stopping Haaland means kick-starting a Mahrez, kick-starting a Gundogan. So, and stopping everyone else is impossible. And some people might say, go man to man. Does anyone in this world have the courage to go man to man with the Kevin De Bruyne, or go man to man with the Haaland, or in that sense go man to man with the Riyad Mahrez on a Phil Foden? It's impossible. Three men can't stop a Kevin De Bruyne or Haaland. So I actually think that it's not just about Haaland, having these X amount of touches or Y amount of shots. It's about Haaland creating the space. See, Pep's system is all about creating space, and if you're creating space for other players, and even if you have zero touches, you can be named as man of the match. You will be paid double your salary for just creating the space for others, right? And occupying the defensive centre backs. So people telling Haaland is again struggling because he had 8 touches against Bournemouth. It's just stupidity, that's all. Well, why don't they actually tell about the number of touches De Bruyne had, which is double when compared to his average? That was because of Haaland creating space and having less touches. People don't talk about that. Football tricks is current city don't need KDB. We can play multiple formations. We might have a shot at UCL this term. We might have more than a shot at UCL this term. Football tricks. I will never say that you can sure shot 100% win a tournament because that is not possible in football. Anything can happen. But with this team, with the ruthlessness of Haaland and with the form KDB is in, if Julian Alvarez is very ruthless, he'll surprise a lot of people. I think, see, why did Real Madrid win all of those games and won the UCL last season? Were they the best technical team? No, they were better teams. We were better than Real Madrid, for example. Chelsea were better than Real Madrid. They won because of only two reasons. Real Madrid won because of Benzema, ruthless up front, and ruthless at the back, Courtois. Only two people, that's it. And I think Pep has actually looked at that and he has thought, well, I will need to do the same thing in the UCL because I have created this beautiful system. I'm playing in this wonderful way, but but at the end, I'm not able to control all the variables in a knockout match and I'm losing out by inches. See, Pep couldn't believe all the other UCL defeats were something else, but against Madrid, Pep couldn't believe that he controlled 182 minutes of that Real Madrid game and still lost in that 1 minute that he couldn't control. So you cannot, I mean, controlling 182 minutes and still losing. That just doesn't happen. So Pepe started that and he has told, well, you cannot control everything. You need ruthless people. So I guess Ortega has also been bought for the same thing along with Haaland. Vinay says the feel around Liverpool Football Club fans isn't good. All are predicting a draw. Vinay, it's almost like the feel around United fans is worse than the feel around Liverpool Football Club fans, right? But the only thing is, I think Liverpool have a lot to lose from that game than United. For United, it is still a loss. United know that they're in the rebuilding phase. See, United are now at a position where Liverpool were in 2015 under Klopp, right? So they're at least 6 years behind Liverpool, if not more. So for United, the worst thing is they will lose and they might not get top four or top six. They might finish in the bottom of the table. That is the worst thing. But for Liverpool Football Club, they could well lose the title at Manchester United at Old Trafford. 2019, if you remember, United team was shit back then as well, and everyone was beating them. And Liverpool drew against that United team, and they lost the title by 1 point. So Liverpool Football Club could very very well lose the title against United. You never know. Liverpool Football Club would have almost lost the title against Crystal Palace with the Darwin Nunes red card, because when titles are decided by single point, there's no room for error. You have to be at your absolute sharpest. Football critics, we never had a Uruguayan player. Let me think. Football critics, Uruguayan player. No, no, no. We never had a Uruguayan player. Yes, we never had one. I mean, how many Uruguayan players were there in the Premier League as well? Edison Cavani is the only name that comes at the top of my head. JSK says better go for a Croatian than Uruguay, and at least it will increase the chance of winning the CL. I understand, JSK. You have found out the secret formula of breaking the Yaya Toure curse, and the only way to break the Yaya Toure curse is to bring a Croatian in, even if he doesn't play. Just let him sit on the bench. That's very interesting. I think actually City should do that. JSK is talking about Croatian. Guardiola is open to transfer next season and no club is after, and that will be interesting, JSK. That's the one transfer I'm actually looking after. And the fact that we didn't get Cucurella and the means that we are gonna go all out for Guardiola. People say why City didn't want to spend 40 million pounds on Cucurella, for example, or I mean 50 million pounds on Cucurella. I think the reason being, this is not being talked about much, but I think the internal discussions would have been with Pep. Do you want us to pay 50 for Cucurella or a 60 for Cucurella as well? Which is the right price that we know now, or do you want to wait another season, Pep, and go for Guardiola? We are ready to spend 80, 85 for Guardiola. Because it will be the same for us. Guardiola is 5 more years younger than Cucurella, so it will be more value for money. And Pep must have told, okay, we will look at I will create a system which can address this problem. Buy me a 10-15 million pound left back, and we'll go for Guardiola next season. He will fit in both left ball playing center back and a left back. I think that must have been the plan. I think next season we are going for Guardiola and we are going for a Bellingham or a Paqueta. I think those two signings are odds on for us. Vinay says why Grealish thinks he doesn't have that goal threat. All players have good finishing. Though Grealish had a good goal threat actually when he was at Aston Villa, right? He used to take free kicks, shoot from long range. He was good at penalties. He was on penalties for them. I do not know what happens when they come to City. Foden was also an excellent finisher, you know. But I don't know what happens, why people lose that finishing thing. Riyad Mahrez is also an excellent finisher, but he sort of dropped off a little bit after coming. I think it's just training with Sterling and Jesus actually all these years. That must play a role. Otherwise, how could you finishing is finishing, right? Otherwise, how could you finish superbly at one club and then come again and but then again, you know, Leipzig, Chelsea, for Timo Werner. Timo Werner was also a really good finisher at Leipzig. You do not know sometimes, but I think with Haaland and Alvarez in, definitely everyone will have to take their game in finishing to the next level. You will see that Jack Grealish will shoot more often, and Jack Grealish will, because you saw his ability right against West Ham, for example. He was brilliant last season, shot on a volley. Against Liverpool in the FA Cup, he was brilliant, shot on a volley. Vinay says Gomez will be part of City versus Newcastle. Yes, he will be on the bench for sure because we don't have a backup to Cancelo. Yes, Wilson as brand is there, but can understand someone who can play in that system. So Gomez will be a part, and I really hope Gomez gets some minutes. It again depends on what Pep Guardiola thinks. Vinay says Guardiola has 43 million pounds release clause. Is that true? No, no, Vinay. I don't think that's true because no one has mentioned it. I think he had it, but then he signed a new contract. I do. Yes, I think he had it this season, but then he signed a new contract. But right now, next season, and Leipzig said they'll sell him only next season. Next season, he has a 80 million pound release clause. No, Vinay. Next season, Guardiola is not having a release clause, as far as I know. But I'll actually check on that. The last time I heard about Guardiola, they say that he doesn't have any release clause for next season. Football Fix is finishing even Haaland, but Haaland, you can see from the way, you know, the first glimpse of Haaland for me is the way he took the ball for that penalty. That was just out of this world. In the last 4 or 5 years, I think you haven't seen someone take penalties with that sort of a confidence. Even Aguero was good at penalties, but towards the end of his career, Aguero as well was, you know, the best penalty taker till now for City has been Yaya Toure. I haven't seen Yaya missing a single penalty. And all his penalties, you know, there's a key thing for that. All of Yaya Toure's penalties are along the ground, you know. So a keeper, even if he dives the right way, doesn't cannot stop it. Haaland, you know, the ball didn't even get up in the air; it was rolled along the ground. So the confidence with which he ran through for the second goal against West Ham. Those two finishes for me, that penalty and that West Ham second goal, showed me this guy is the best of the best in finishing. Even the most ruthless hunters like Lewandowski and Benzema don't have that kind of finishing that Erling Haaland does. Football Fix's glimpse of Haaland reminds me of Suarez. But I think Haaland has even better finishing than Suarez. I know this might be unpopular opinion, but you know, the thing with Haaland is his pace as well, pace, physicality, finishing. I think with Haaland you almost have, you know, players like a combination of both Suarez and Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry just for his extreme pace and his wonderful finishing, and Suarez for that kind of excellent movement and stuff. But Haaland for me, he really reminds me of Thierry Henry. Vinay says Haaland did have chance with his Bournemouth, just missed by centimeters, and he scuffed the shot as well, right? And that was also at the end when he was being taken off. But you know, even when he scuffed it, the scuff of Haaland looks better than Raheem Sterling. You know, when he actually puts everything in his finish. That's how good Haaland actually is. Vinay says triple captain Haaland versus Newcastle. How Newcastle play with defense backfire back three. That's actually, I do not know how Eddie Howe will set up, because generally Eddie Howe's style of play is passing out from the back, and they would want to come toe to toe with City, leaving Hollington and Alan Saint Maxim high and wide. So we do not know how will Newcastle set up against us? But I think the best bets would be to maybe play a triple captain against Man United when we play Man United. I think that would actually be the best bet. Haaland versus Man United. Haaland is triple captain. Haaland will just tear United apart. Football tricks is, if there was a player which I wanted from Liverpool, it was Diogo Jota, a winger who can play as a striker. Yes, football tricks. Jota was actually a very very underrated player. The his dribbling ability at goals, and the best thing about Diogo Jota is, apart from his striking abilities, attacking abilities, it's Jota's tenacity in going back and getting the ball once you lose them. He is almost like the trigger of the press for Liverpool. So that is one thing which Jota would have been a perfect false nine for us. And Jota could play as a false nine, as a striker up front, on his own, as a winger. His aerial ability is extremely good. So yeah, Jota. It's interesting that Liverpool have gone for. I think Jota and Luis Diaz are two excellent picks from Liverpool. I was more than Jota. I think Luis Diaz was someone just because he scored the solo goal against us in the Champions League playing for Porto. I thought we should have at least gone for Luis Diaz. He would definitely have been an upgrade on Sterling or someone like that. And Diaz can play in the striker role as well. He's tenacious. He's quick. He has a good work rate as well. He has the never say die attitude. So Luis Diaz was one transfer which I actually feel we should have gone for. Football Critic says Jota was like a young Aguero, fox in the box, and he was like a young Aguero with all of that tenacity and ball pinching ability, right? So he was like an Aguero whom Pep Guardiola. See, if Pep Guardiola would have got Aguero at a 22, 23, he would have made him the best striker in the world in terms of that second side as well, that in terms of getting the ball, work rate, and stuff. So Jota is almost that ilk, when if you would have given Pep Guardiola young Aguero, how he would have made Aguero. Jota is right now at the same stage. He knows how to get the ball back, work rate, positions, and all of those things. So yes, for me it's Luis Diaz, but Jota is also a good thing whom I would wanted City. And also James Milner, I always thought that James Milner would have been useful for us in a couple of positions, especially in that left back position and stuff like that. James Milner would have been a good bit part player for us, but he wanted more game time, fair enough, and he actually left. Again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Wonderful conversation. And also, by the way, we have a new article on Stefan Ortega versus Ederson in our blog. The link for a blog is given below in the description for the video. Please go and have a look at it. The article is very interesting. It's about Ortega and Ederson, who should start for City in the Champions League, and it's a wonderful article. Just go through it. And again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me on the show. One wonderful show again, as always. And if you had liked the video, please click on the like button and also the bell icon, so that you stay subscribed to the channel. Take care, guys, and see you all again.